You know, it never seems to stop in our culture. There's always something going on, and I'm regularly fielding questions from people going, "Hey, Brett, did you see?" Or, "Hey, have you heard?" Or, "What are your thoughts on this?" It seems week after week, there are things that come up that we're like, "Oh man, what's going on?" And yet I wrestle through my answer at times because I don't know about you, but I'm not normal. At least I don't feel normal in our culture today. So today, with this video, I'm starting a movement. I'm calling it the third perspective. Calling it the third perspective because I don't know about the world that you live in, but the world that I live in seems so binary. When people come to me with questions, it's either this or that. And often I'm sitting there going, well, neither. Is there a different option? I mean, look at our political system. I don't know about you, but I'm sitting in a place where I'm like, yeah, neither. And yet a little bit of both, depending on what it is that we're talking about. We need a third perspective. Just recently, somebody came to me and asked me the question about this Equality Act. Not sure if you've heard of it, but there's this thing that was put forth within our political system called the Equality Act. And on the surface, I have to tell you, yeah, man, that's not a bad idea. Equality, something that we all want to be equal. How can we be all treated the same and get the same opportunities in a culture that says, hey, we're free to be whatever it is that we want? Is there true equality possible within our system? And I'd have to tell you, the answer is yes, there is. But it comes from the third perspective. And it's probably not a perspective that some people find viable at all. And yet within this perspective, there is true equality. What do I mean by that? Well, it comes in Galatians 3:27 through 28, which says this: "For all of you who were baptized into Christ have clothed yourselves with Christ. There is neither Jew nor Gentile, neither slave nor free, nor is there male and female, for you are all one in Christ." You know what that is? That's true equality. And once then we're under the blood of Christ, we're equal. Every single one of us. All the barriers are destroyed. But that then poses the question that if you're listening to this and you don't believe the way that I do, you might be asking, well, wasn't Jesus quite exclusive? He wasn't equal. Didn't he discriminate against all people? Or at least certain types of people? And the answer is no, he didn't. See, Jesus is actually inclusive because his teachings are available to everybody. And that's what he said. All can come. Anybody, you're welcome. See, with Jesus, there were no barriers to entry. There was no rule that said you had to do this first or you had to do that. He welcomed everybody. But here's what's cool about Jesus. He was two things very clearly. First, he was invitational. He welcomed all people. But second, then, he was expectational. That when he offered that invite, he very clearly made it known that there were high expectations once you entered. There was no barrier to entry, but once you were in, the expectations were high. He said, you've got to count the cost. You have to be willing to pick up your cross and follow me, forsaking everything else around you, including yourself, willing to give up your very own life. That's crazy. And you know, he brought the third perspective. In fact, I think he was the originator of when people came to him and said, hey, Jesus, what about this or what about that? He went, let me give you another perspective. And then he invited people into that. And that's what's unique about this movement that I'm arguing we need to start. It needs to be invitational and expectational. With this invite going, maybe there's a third option. Maybe there's a third perspective. And I think that's how we need to view the teachings of Jesus in our world today. Is it this or is it that? I think there's a third option. So where are you at today? See, the invite is there. The expectations are high. And it's up to us to step in. And when we do, Jesus then says, love your neighbor as I have loved you. Live at peace with everyone as much as it possibly depends on you. And then give of yourselves so that when the world sees you, they see Jesus through us. Those are very high expectations. And it's an exciting invitation to step into that and then bring a third perspective. So when people say, hey, what do you think about this? You can say, hey, I got a place you should look. Have a great week. See you next week.